Hey, it's your cheerleader, confidant, and friend Sofie, and welcome to the Everything I Did Wrong podcast. Ever feel like life's just one big blooper reel? Well, guess what? You're not alone. This podcast is your guide so you don't make the same mistakes I did. And a reminder that failure and imperfection are all part of the learning process. Buckle up for a wild ride of real stories, raw conversations, and the kind of what were we thinking moments that make life interesting. Are you ready to change your life? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Everything I Did Wrong podcast. My name is Sofie Lindberg, and I have interviewed over 450 job applicants over the past year and a half. Why does that matter to you all? Well, because in this episode, I am diving into the 8 mistakes that you might be making when applying for jobs. Trust me, I have seen it all. I have heard it all. I have said no to many applicants because of these mistakes that people tend to keep making. I feel like this is the best time of year to be doing this because I know graduation for all of you college kids is around the corner. It's coming up in May, and it is a stressful time for you. I get it. And I want to start off this episode by acknowledging that it's stressful, and I get it, and I understand. And I'm so sorry that it is so stressful for you all because they put way too much pressure on new grads to go find the perfect job, the dream job. And frankly, dream jobs, perfect jobs are likely not going to ever happen because there's no such thing as perfect. But your dream job is really hard to land right outside of college. It's really hard to land 10 years into your career, 20 years into your career. It's not called a dream job for nothing. So just give yourself a little bit of grace, a little bit of patience. If what you thought it was going to look like, if what you thought you were going to get right outside of college, whether it is where your job is, the type of job it is it a manager role? Is it not a manager role? Especially the salary. It's okay. You've got time to get all of that stuff down the line. But right now, I'm going to help you out and give you the 8 mistakes that you could be making, and you should probably stop making them. So, mistake number 1, and I have done this, and someone had to tell me that this was a horrible thing for me to be doing. And the minute I found out that this was actually not what I was supposed to be doing, I started looking at this in people that would apply to jobs with me. And frankly, if I saw this, they usually wouldn't even get an interview. Now, what am I talking about? I am talking about the Canva templates. Yes, I am talking about the resume Canva templates that probably all of you are using because out of all the people that I've interviewed, most of them did not have Canva templates because I pretty much refused to interview them if they had them. Now, out of the maybe, I want to say it's probably more like 7,500 applicants that I have reviewed in my life, over 50% I could tell were using a Canva template. Now, why does this matter? Why is using a Canva template a mistake? Because it's not industry standard. When you're a recruiter and you're looking at a resume, we take maybe 15 seconds to look at your resume. And if all of the information we need is not easy to find because there's these funky lines that are separating and you have skills over in like a margin over here and the formatting looks a bit funky and you have education at the bottom and then you kind of have your work experience, but then there's like a light pink background and then you have a photo of yourself at the top. I can't really understand what I should be looking at, what I should be prioritizing first, where my eyes should be going. It's a lot. It is a lot for a recruiter to look at. In addition, most Canva templates include a photo at the top for you to put your headshot. Don't put your headshot on your resume. There are a million different hiring policies that actually will penalize both myself as a recruiter and you for putting your headshot at the top. Because when you put your headshot at the top, I can now see your race. I can now see potentially what your identification is gender wise and how you're presenting. I can see whatever your backdrop is. I can kind of guess off of that. And if you don't have the means to take a super overly professional headshot, I'm now thinking, wait, why do they have this headshot that they clearly took in front of their house? Why did they choose to use this? That says something about your professional ability. Hmm. And so there's a lot of different things that I'm going to assume about you if I can see your headshot. So on your resume, do not put your headshot, which also means please do not use the Canva templates because most Canva templates have the headshot in them. The only time I've ever accepted a Canva template, and I'll take away the word Canva, let's just say artistic template, right? Things that have different colors, that have designs going on, things that are not just, here's my work experience, here's my education, here's my skills. Things that are a little bit more creative to the eye. I will accept those resumes if it's for a creative position. So if I'm hiring for a graphic designer, a chief branding officer, a social media manager, someone in the visual creative services, and even sometimes marketing, you can get away with it. If I'm hiring for that, then frankly, it's actually kind of nice to see a little bit of their creative ability, especially if it's a graphic designer. Then, yes, if they have a pretty cool resume, I will take that. Every other position, it should be industry standard. And when I'm talking about industry standard, I am going to link down below an example of a really, really great resume template. I love it. I think it's perfect. I think you are pretty much going to land any job if you use this resume template, as long as your experience lines up. But from a template perspective, this is probably the best out there. And it's got all the details that you need to have and also the details that you don't need to have. Speaking of resume, the other mistake that I see all the time, and this is actually one that I used to make as well, and I didn't realize that this was actually affecting my job offers, the pay that I was going to get, the level of position that they would make me eligible for. And it's such a small thing. And I was talking to a girlfriend about this, and she had no idea that recruiters not only look at this, but will actually note that we can pay you less or we can give you not a managerial position if you have this on your resume. What is this? It is your graduation year. Yes, if you put your graduation year for high school, for college on your resume, take it off today. Just wipe it right off. But if I can see your graduating year for high school, for college, I can put two and two together if I'm looking at your resume, how old you are, if the experience that's on your resume was while you were in college. And if it is, most of the time, it doesn't count, which is silly to me because I make everything that I have done within my university program, I make that count because I still worked, I still put in the hours. I, worked in a field and worked at jobs that directly aligned with my career ambitions. And so by taking my graduating year off, voila, all of that experience that you've done now counts as actual work experience. Because typically, what happens is if you put your graduating year, and if I'm looking at your resume and I go, oh, all of the experience they did was while in college, then if the position says, oh, we want 2+ years experience, 3+ years experience, typically we don't count that as experience. We count it as, an internship that's part of your educational or your university degree. So that I would say is going to be the biggest game changer for a lot of you because when you take off that graduating year, you're not limiting yourself, you're not showing all your cards, and ultimately you have a lot more opportunity to get the salary and the level of position that you deserve for the experience that you have. speaking of experience, I know that it is super easy to want to tell on your resume everything that you have possibly done. And props to you if you have a lot of experience and the thought of trying to share it all is overwhelming. I get it. I remember the first time I was building my resume and I wanted to put everything I've volunteered for, every place I've ever worked, all the different positions I've had at that workplace. And pretty much when I put it all together, my resume was 4 pages long. That is way, way, way too long. I'm not going to read it. I like this rule that says that you can get an extra page on your resume with each decade of experience. Now, I don't ever think that a resume should be more than 2 pages. So, front and back. Typically, what you would hand in if we were back in the 1980s and you go door to door and hand your resume in on paper. But you can get away with having a 2 page resume once you have 20 plus years experience. For anyone with under 10 years of experience, your resume should never be more than 1 page. And I know it's hard. I know it's really, really difficult to cut things out, but you kind of have to. If I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at your resume and I've got 15 seconds to look at it, frankly, I don't have that much time to even read 1 page, let alone to read 1 page front and back, a third page, a fourth page, a fifth page. I once received a resume that was 24 pages long. Yes, 24 pages long. Someone submitted it to me. And you know what the first thing I did was? Delete, rejected application, immediately not going to get an interview. Because what that tells me is number one, you're not able to summarize experiences in a thoughtful manner. And for pretty much any job out there, no one has the time to read a 12-page essay on why you think this product should work or why you think that this decision was a good decision. No, we're we're fast moving. Everyone's sending Slack messages, emails are getting shorter and shorter. We're hopping onto Zoom meetings. No one has time to read things longer than 3 pages. So if you submit a resume to me that looks like you just took your job description from all the places you worked at, you copy and pasted it in there, didn't summarize, didn't add KPIs, didn't add success indicators, didn't add numbers. What I mean is, you didn't say something like, increase operational effectiveness by 10% through implementing new project management system. Something like that. If you're not summarizing what you actually did and instead you're just putting the job description in, that is usually when I'm going to get a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5 page resume. And I'm not going to look at it. So right now, look at your resume. If it is longer than a page, delete, 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 delete. And did I mention delete? Because that is probably killing you. I would say of every piece of advice I'm giving you for your resume, the two most important ones are what does it look like visually? And is it more than a page? Because those are the two that I am going to pay attention to at first glance. That is my first impression of you. If it's a really confusing template, if it's too long, my first impression is not going to be a good one. And you definitely don't want that when you are applying for full time jobs. Okay, now I want to move into the interview process. So you've submitted your resume, you got the first interview. Usually it's a phone screening and you have no idea what you're doing. I get it. I have done many, many different phone screenings and I remember the first one I did and it was pretty bad. I had no idea what I was saying. I just had like massive word vomit. I was talking about things I had done in high school for a college job, but I had already had experience in college. And so I was like, why on earth am I talking about high school? This makes no sense, but whatever. So I was talking about high school. I was just really overly exaggerating my experiences. Looking back on it, it was probably the absolute worst 15 minutes I've ever had within the recruiting space, within the job space. And I've learned so many lessons from my failed phone screenings, but also from the many failed phone screenings that I have led. And I don't say it to be mean, but I am shocked by the things that people will say, the things that people will do, and the things that people won't do during these phone screenings. So, number one big mistake that everybody makes during phone screenings is not having a one pager. What does that mean? Before I do any phone screening for my own personal job hunting, I create a one pager. It's got information on the company, recent success stories or initiatives or programs or something, new that's happening in the company. Maybe it includes a recent press article headline, something like that, but just a very general overview of the company, what it does and what it's been doing lately. Then I put in the job description. And then in red, I'll write next to each bullet point how I can connect that to what I've done before. So if there's a bullet point in the job description that says manage program applications and interviews, I'll put in red, connect this to when I worked at Fairchance and CYP and managed mentorship applications as well as consulting applications or something like that. I will put in red how I can connect it to previous experience that I've had. The last thing that I'll do on this one pager is I'll write out all the initial questions that I have about the role. And what this does is number one, it prepares you. So you're going into this phone screening, or if it's an actual interview, you're going in prepared, you're going in with some research, and you're going in with a general understanding of who you are applying to, what kind of questions might be asked during the interview, and how you can connect your experience to the job. Because I guarantee you, in every interview, phone screening, whatever it may be for a job, they always ask, why do you think you're a good fit for the role? Tell me about your experience that applies to this role, something of that nature. And being able to have bullet points already in front of you of how you can connect it, specific experiences you can talk about, it's going to help you and it's going to stop you from pulling a me and doing the word vomit thing and talking about things from forever ago. Also, when you have the questions written out, it prevents you from getting into that end of phone screening, end of interview call space where they ask, do you have any questions? And you can't think of anything. And they want you to ask a question, but just you have a million and they escape you. Writing them out puts them in front of you, makes it easy to refer to, and it makes you sound a lot more prepared. And then the last piece with that one pager is when you put in the work to understand the company and who you're applying to, it goes such the extra mile. I cannot count. Actually, I can, but so many phone screenings that I am in, I get questions on, can you remind me what your company does? Can you remind me what this position is for? Can you remind me about the services your company offers? Can you remind me about how long you've been in business? Super duper basic questions that if you go to our website, you can find all the answers to. And I promise you, you're not being sly with those questions. Us as interviewers, we know. We know if you haven't gone to our website. We know if you haven't looked thoroughly at the job description. We know if you haven't checked the email that literally says what position you're applying to before we call. I just got out of a phone screening and someone asked, can you remind me what you all do again? And I went, yeah, no, this phone screening's over. If I have to remind you what we do, then that just shows me that you put absolutely no time and attention into it. And frankly, it's kind of disrespectful. That's the last thing you want to do, right? Is to disrespect the person that could potentially be giving you a job. So takes you 15 minutes to just do a little bit of research and create a one pager. Highly recommend it. It will save you so much stress during these calls. I cannot stress it enough. Okay, more phone screening and interview pieces here. The other thing that I notice quite frequently, and this ties into the research piece, I have been on several interview calls where I've had a candidate give me feedback on something about my company, without ever doing any of the research. I was on a call recently where I had a applicant say that, oh, all you have is a logo and this one brand color. We can do a lot better than that. First of all, probably wouldn't have picked that wording. Second of all, we don't just have one brand color. We don't just have one logo. And if you look at our website or social media, anything, you would see we have a lot more than that. I usually love getting feedback, whether it's about the interview process or maybe a cool idea that my company could do. I love it. But when it's not from an educated place, and I can tell that you're just throwing stuff out there to make yourself sound impressive or sound like you're paying attention or sound like you know what you're talking about, frankly, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Usually, when that happens, I will find a way to wrap up the call and say, thank you so much for your time. And we'll be reaching out if we would like to move forward with your application. That means I don't like you. So please, if you're going to provide feedback, do your research beforehand because no one knows the company better than the person that is trying to hire you. So if you're giving feedback and it's not actually good feedback for what that company does or who they are, we're going to know, and it doesn't make you look good. So, speaking of that feedback piece, the other thing that I see quite a bit is false confidence. What I mean by this is you not really having that much experience, but talking about yourself as though you are the industry expert. I am guilty of this, and I will say it till the cows come home. I used to do that all the time in the nonprofit sector when I first started. Before I had started Claim Your Potential, I was so overly confident that I knew everything about the nonprofit sector, that I was the industry expert. And so I would go into interviews like I had 30 years of experience working in the nonprofit world, when in reality, I had like two. And I am probably like the best example of false confidence because I have in many calls in my day said, oh, I've never heard of that happening before. Oh, I know that when I worked with this board of directors, they did this. So I'm curious if that would work here. And it just presents this attitude of, I know everything and you don't. Know it all, right? It presents a know it all attitude. And if I'm interviewing you, I don't want to know it all, right? I want someone in my company that, yes, is skilled in what they do, but can learn, can grow, can come into the position with a growth mindset and with the mindset of, hey, I don't know everything. I know enough to be successful in this position, but this is a different company than where I worked before. So the processes, the systems, they're going to be a bit different, and that's okay. I'm excited to go into that. But when you're presented in an interview immediately with a know it all attitude, then I don't think that you can grow in the position. And I don't think that you're going to learn. And I don't think that you're coming in with a growth mindset. And I don't think that you are going to be the best in terms of team camaraderie. In fact, you might even throw people under the bus sometimes. So why would I hire you? You can be confident. I encourage confidence. But what I like to do is know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Write down your strengths, write down your weaknesses. And don't be afraid to say that during a call. I've been in an interview before where they were asking me why I was interested in the position. And I had said, well, one of my weaknesses is I've never actually worked directly with the board of directors. I've worked in an administrative capacity. I've worked in a liaison capacity, but I've never worked solely with the board of directors. And that's an area that I would love to grow in. Presenting like that shows not only am I confident in what I can do, but I'm confident in what I can't do. And that is pretty sexy. If I'm hiring you, I'm like, wow, that is pretty cool. I love this person. I want to keep talking to this person. This person's perfect. All right. The last two mistakes I want to talk about, these are mistakes that I know not everybody does, but I would say around 25% of applications that I get do this. First one, do not multitask on interview calls. That is phone screenings, on camera, anything. If it's an interview, do not multitask. I can hear it. I can see it. I can feel it. I have been on phone screenings where I can hear them going outside to go get a package. I can hear them in their kitchen frying something. I can hear them opening and closing doors, multiple doors, and walking up and down a hallway and constantly moving. You might not think we can hear it, but we can. And it's very distracting as an interviewer. It's also very distracting to you. I don't know how you can focus if you're moving all these different places and doing all these different things while you're on a call. But as an interviewer, I see it as a sign of disrespect. I remember one time someone was on the phone with me and I heard them frying something in a pan, getting a plate out from their cabinet, getting their fork and knife out, doing basically setting up dinner. And I pretty much ended the call and said, "It sounds like now is not a good time for us to speak. Please reach out when you are not in the middle of making dinner or doing something else. I would like to have your undivided attention," which I know sounds a little bit mean, but frankly, it's just really rude and mean to us and disrespectful of our time when you're multitasking. The last piece, and probably I want to say the most common sense piece, but again, 25% of people do this. Don't over exaggerate your experiences, or even worse, lie. Please don't do it. Please, we all know, every single person that will ever interview you, we know if there is something that is not correct on your resume, if it's a lie, if it's an exaggeration. And we usually know A, because it makes no sense why you would have that experience, or B, when we ask you about it, you can't tell us what you did. You can't tell us specifics. You can't tell us about the specific responsibilities. You can't tell us about the working relationship. You can't tell us anything. Maybe for all the liars out there that do lie on their resume, if you're going to lie, at least do the research about what the position is. So if you're going to lie, you do it right. But you shouldn't be lying in the first place. If you have to lie on your resume, it means that you need more experience, or maybe the job that you're applying to just isn't right for you and your background right now. And that's okay. You can always apply in a couple years, in a couple months when you have a little bit more experience under your belt in that sector where you feel a little bit more confident going into that interview. That is okay. It's okay to push things off. But please, please don't lie. Like parents, we know, we find out. It's really not that hard to find out. So save yourself the trouble and the embarrassment and just tell the truth on your resume. I know that was a lot of information thrown your way, but I really, really wanted to record this episode mainly from a place of, oh my goodness, I keep seeing these same mistakes even today, and I just want to help you all. But also, these are things that I wish I was told. And it wasn't until someone sat me down one day and said, "Sofie, these are the things that you are doing wrong and it is hurting you," that I realized, holy moly, that explains so much. And that also explains why people wouldn't get back to me for jobs, why interviews weren't going the way I thought they were, why I felt confident going in, but really wishy washy coming out of it. So I hope that this really helped you. And for everyone that's graduating this May, I want to say, you've got this. Home stretch, you are almost there. I promise your life is going to work out. It might not seem like it right now. It might seem so far off into the distant future, but I promise things are happening for a reason. And if an opportunity doesn't happen now, it means maybe it wasn't the right one for you. And that means an even better one is coming your way. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to something that could truly change your life. On that note, in case no one tells you today, you are capable of incredible things, and I believe in your strength, resilience, and your ability to create the life of your dreams. Now, all you have to do is believe too. I'll talk to you next week. That was a horrible intro. Okay. Hold on. Ooh, it blurred. Okay. All right. Sofie is on. Hold on. I'm a sports hoster type of person, and we're not doing that. And if your Sam, did it really just do that? Hey there, it's me again, and it's not to bring you more incredible, awesome, amazing content. I wish it was. It's time for the legal stuff. You know how it goes, the fine print and all that jazz. The Everything I Did Wrong podcast and all content shared by Sofie Lindberg and Sofie Lindberg International are provided for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Now, while we have a blast here, it's important to remember that any information you get from this podcast or our website is at your own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional diagnosis or treatment. So, if you've got any health concerns, please go chat with your healthcare pros. Cool? Got it? Awesome. Catch you in the next episode.